There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
Well, now it's just like, hey, this is the podcast. Welcome to it. And that is the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. And how you guys doing?
Oh, good.
My whole thing is to make it so confusing for everyone that they really think we're on drugs. That's my whole life.
Achieved that.
I mean, as long as my work doesn't find out, we're fine.
Triv, give me your number to your work and email, and I'll email this.
I gotta go. There's a long distance call. I'm going through a tunnel.
That was the last episode I was on. The guy kept calling people's work.
Right.
You don't understand. I have very high sources that say she turns herself into a 2D avatar and talks about 60 television shows.
Exactly. So, guys, we're back to talk an episode that was quite something. We'll find out if it continues Jacob's love of this fourth season or not. Jacob, he's smoking. He's like, the smoke is coming out, so it's like,
I'm just so sad. I'm still waiting on them bad episodes.
yeah. I think we found one. At least I found one.
Ooh,
You would have said that about the past like not the last one, but the couple before.
No, but I can stomach those episodes. This episode's a fucking disaster. I don't know what's going on.
It's not
a
that
fucking
bad.
It's so bad. It's so boring. It's, oh my god, girl hears things. Oh my god, teacher from Wizard of Oz. Oh my god, Dorothy. Oh my god, Lion. I was like, what the hell is going on? This episode,
I don't think this was
bad.
top 10 by any means, but
I'm here to make
bottom
you
100.
feel better, though, Nick. Keep you entertained. That's why I'm here.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought this episode was interesting.
So when we
Also,
bring Raymond on, you know it's bad. You know it's real bad. No, I'm
Hey,
just
I
kidding.
was here for the grave.
Well, when Raymond comes on, it's 99% bad.
Yeah.
Wait, we haven't done 99 episodes though. This is more like what is this? Your fourth or fifth?
Third. I was here for the grave, 4 o'clock, and now this.
Oh, just the three? Then like 66% of the time you're right every time.
There you go.
Or something.
Raymond's got 99 problems, and this episode ain't one.
Yeah.
Or is
This
that
time
Jacob?
I'm only here because Jacob promised me it was a Captain Power podcast. But
Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future? We could talk about it.
I
sure you
have-
would want to.
I have downloaded the entire series, Jacob.
Oh God, he disappeared. We'll never see him
I know
again.
where
He
he's
lost
going.
in the Twilight Zone.
You can use this to shoot at the screen at the beginning and the end of the episodes, and you can play a game with the TV show. And if you get hit by the TV show, it'll eject your little person. Oh shit!
Oh, that's cool.
This
I
is my
learned
Captain Power
about
toy.
that. I learned about that TV show because someone asked me to value their comics for them, and they had the only 2 issues of Captain Power.
I love Captain Power. That was my shit when I was a kid. I used to watch it on my little 13-inch black and white TV I had in my room. That dates me.
Just
Yeah,
a little bit.
Jacob,
That's okay.
Power's awesome.
you're that Key and Peele sketch. You bitch. But anyways, so Captain Power was a TV show about 5 kids who summoned a eco-friendly hero. And is that right? Are we talking about the same show?
No, I think you're slightly off.
Captain Power is a future where where the world has decided to fight wars with robots, and then the robots go rogue, and now we have to fight the robots.
That sounds like an eco-terrorist show.
To be fair,
This
I've
week
only
on
read
the
the
Twilight
comic book.
Zone.
I told you, Trev. Hey, what week are we talking about? The Fifth Dimension's always like this. And we aren't doing crazy stuff. We aren't the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast.
Oh, we are so crazy. I mean, Jacob's playing with toys, and you're falling into the dimension, and yeah.
Raymond's
But,
on,
Raymond,
and
can you
Triv's
toss me a
contemplating.
bear,
Yeah,
please?
Triv's contemplating her life and how she's
Ooh,
still on this podcast.
Raymond.
Yes.
Does this mean anything to you?
Reno Williams. Yeah, I've seen that. Love Reno
Thank you.
Williams.
These losers
I had never heard of it
have
until
no
Jacob brought
idea
it
what
up.
Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins is.
It's like the second of the cool guys don't look at explosion meme.
Uncultured swine.
Well, yeah, duh.
If I remember correctly, it's the second movie to have that trope in it. And the first is 99 and 100% dead or something.
Oh, nice.
Hey, it was
I mean,
nominated for best
Remo
makeup.
Williams' The Adventure Begins. How do you not know what that is? I cannot believe you.
I
two.
don't
They still
know
haven't watched it.
many-
I gave them a link on YouTube where they can watch the whole movie for free. They refuse to watch it.
I've
What
lost
the
the
fuck?
link actually.
They don't like good
I-
movies.
By the way, it's directed by director of the was it Goldfinger
Goldfinger.
I'll take your
and
word
Diamonds
for
Are Forever and Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. And speaking of guys who've directed popular movies, let's talk about this movie or this episode called The Mute. Or is it called The
It's
Mute?
called
Or is
Mute.
it just called
It's called
It's
Mute,
called
but it's
Mute.
called The Mute on Freevee or whatever the hell I want. Freeform. It's called The Mute.
I feel like they changed it to mute because they felt like they were being like racist or something like that to mute people. I don't know.
I mean, it's
I don't know what's
called
going
just
on.
moot.
It's called
Moot.
Mute.
It's called moot. It's a moot point, Jeff. Mute.
It's called mute on the actual episode, so I'm pretty sure it's just mute.
Just Mute.
Yeah. But it's
It's
season
a
4
moot
episode.
mute.
It's a moot point. It's a mute
The
point.
Mute Point.
It's a
Exactly.
moot.
But it's season 4, episode 5. It's directed by Stuart Rosenberg, who I found out that he directed the last week's episode as well. But he directed Cool Hand Luke, The Voyage of the Damned, The Amityville Horror, The Pope of Greenwich, and the
Pope of
Drowning Pool.
Greenwich.
Greenwich, whatever. Greenwich
Greenwich.
Village. He directed Brubaker too, which is has kind of a history with one of my family members actually. That's what
Did he
He
direct
directed
Remo
two Paul
Williams' The
Newman.
Adventure Begins?
He directed 2 Paul Newman movies, including Pocket Money, starring Lee fucking Marvin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Lee
Motherfucking
was
Marvin.
fucking Marvin, you know. And but yeah, Brubaker has a history of my family actually. Anyways, directed by Stuart Rosenberg, written by Richard Matheson. Production code 4858, original air date January 31st, 1963. Stars Anne Jillian, Claudia Bryar, Robert Boone,
Claudia Brown.
Frank Overton, and I can't talk today. I'm just going to let you
John
guys
Wow.
Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name too.
Barbara Baxley,
Whenever I
Irene
go-
Dailey, and Oscar Beregi Jr. So, anyways, this episode sucks. Good night, everyone. What else?
Oh, would you
Does not.
shush?
This episode does not suck.
It does suck. It's terrible.
It was
The
not
little
terrible.
girl
Episode's
was
terrible.
touched. The little girl was touched by an angel. Check out my channel for
She
a
was
review.
touched by an angel.
She was
Yes.
definitely touched by something. She was
She's
touched
one
by
of
a
the
terrible
11
level.
actors that were in both the 60s Twilight Zone and Touched by an Angel.
Really?
She's-
Oh, that's
she
cool.
plays. Oh, she plays Joan in Mr. Mom. I love Mr. Mom. Nobody's seen Mr. Mom have the
It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
Michael Keaton.
with Michael Keaton and Terry Garr and
Yeah.
Martin Mull. Yeah,
was
Joe's is the neighbor across the street that takes him to the strip club, the male strip club actually. So
As you do.
yeah,
You know what? They got like the Japanese baseball team. Isn't that?
No, that's
movie?
Gung Ho.
No, that's that's Gung Ho. Never mind.
yeah.
I
Have you
can
seen
make
either of these, Raymond? Gung Ho or Mr. Mom?
Yeah, I've seen both of them. Gun Ho. Yeah, I love the windshield scene on Gun Ho.
You know what they haven't seen, Raymond?
See
Remo
that
Williams.
2020.
Adventure Begins.
I mean, what about Sea Lab or Gypsy or Babes in Toyland, 1961?
How about the
I don't
hottie or
know.
the naughty?
Like, we're not going to talk about that. Let's talk about Remo Williams again because I don't want to talk about Hottie and Naughty.
I don't
What a
want to either, but I
terrible
had to
movie.
put it together.
Highlander.
Princes
you're
of
just-
the
now you're just-
universe.
Now you're just pulling shit out at this point.
Born to be kings, we're the princes of the universe.
Jacob literally has like a whole section of stuff on his desk that you can just pull out of and just give to
It's
show it
just
to us.
random.
I am
Yeah, just
Spartacus.
I've also reviewed the first season of Highlander. You can check that on my channel.
Oh, you have?
And
I'm on season
Relic
3 right now.
Hunter.
I'm on season 3 right now.
I've also reviewed Relic Hunter.
Really?
I've not seen any of
Pia-
that. So
Pia
Relic
Carrera is in the bikini looking for
He's like a
artifacts for
Laura
like,
Croft
forward season.
TV
Yeah.
version.
Yes.
So that's why they call it the relic cunter.
Oh, true.
Womb Raider.
Moon Raider.
No, Womb Raider.
Oh,
In the original
Womb
Tomb
Raider.
Raider, somebody made a nude mod when she swims. It's like literally like directly behind her.
Oh,
They
no.
called it Womb Raider. I don't know why it doesn't really make any sense, but
So, anyways,
What the
mute.
fuck?
Mute is about a young little girl who is mute.
Mortal
And
Kombat soundtrack too.
Holy shit.
anyway, so yeah, Bill Irwin's in this episode too. Do we know that?
Yeah.
Do we know that?
Nice.
Is he like the old? Is he the old prospector guy?
Stinky Pete?
The guy, the homeless guy.
A snake done poison the whale.
The guy that thinks the fact other people don't speak English is the funniest thing in the world.
Oh my god.
He's like the
He's like,
he
they're
does-
German, they don't speak English. They call them a constable instead of a sheriff.
Oh man.
So yeah, this episode sucks. So yeah, we'll put
Does
it
not.
back.
Okay, enough, you dorkfish.
Doesn't suck.
Dorkfish.
Yes. You
Do you
are
have
a
you have
dorkfish.
a movie called Dorkfish, Jacob?
Does it go into the?
Would you rather me
original
call you a
check?
fucking cunt? Because I can call you that too.
I'm sure Jacob has that movie actually. Fucking cut.
I think I have that digitally.
On a certain website called X.
Fucking cut never or volume 17.
Cunt nugget? What did you say? Cunt nugget?
No, fucking cunt
What is it?
volume 17.
Cunt nugget. Let's stick with cunt nugget. I like that.
Oh,
Volume
Jacob.
17.
By the
Volume
way,
69.
Oh, good lord.
Jacob. By the way, there's a kid named Percy Helton in this episode.
I saw that.
Yeah, so,
Percy.
Percy.
It's not Percival though.
But he could be.
Percival
Maybe that's
Smithers.
short for Percival.
Percival. It may be. It may be.
Yeah.
Who the fuck names your kid Percy?
Someone in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. What
I
Triv
don't
said.
There was a wrestling manager named Percy Pringle.
Oh, nice.
Man, his
Percy
name's
Pringle,
Paul
though,
Bear.
that rolls off the tongue.
That was
Yes,
Paul
that's-
Bearer's. Paul Bearer was Percy Pringle before he was Paul Bearer.
Ah, cool.
So yeah, this is now a wrestling slash porn slash Reno
Captain
Williams
Power.
slash Captain Power slash
Jodie
good old
Whittaker, first season on Doctor Who podcast.
exactly. See, I told you, Triv, we're on a special kind of drug.
So
Yeah.
far, we've gotten as far into the description of this episode as there's a little girl that, and then it just
On
went
drugs.
Yeah,
off
it
the
all
rails.
fell apart.
We're on nuke.
We're on Nuki. Nuki.
Oh no.
So, anyways, once again, there's a little girl in this episode who, actually, you know what? Let's not talk
Oh,
about the little girl
no.
just yet.
She
let's
don't
talk about-
talk.
let's talk about the lead up to this episode. So, before Rod Serling does his creative narration that is just like wordplay after wordplay,
Oh shit.
this takes place in Germany, a la probably a set piece in what was it,
I
California?
thought it was
somewhere.
Italy.
In Bavaria.
Yeah, it's in Bavaria,
set
Germany.
piece-
Dusseldorf,
the,
Germany.
The set piece is in
Dusseldorf.
Bavaria.
Dusseldorf.
Is the set piece in Bavaria, California?
No, it's in Bavaria.
Bavaria, California.
According to the IMDb trivia,
So they actually filmed in Germany?
That's what it says.
Bavaria, California. Germany.
You're right. But it opens up in Bavaria, Dusseldorf, Germany, which is the home of the kid from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And they all speak English, which is really weird. They all speak good English. They don't sound German at all. And
American
they-
TV in the 60s, everybody spoke English.
like real
Yeah.
good English, except for when they ADR like Augustus Gloop, stuff like that.
If they weren't speaking English, they spoke with an accent like this, Fräulein.
Or ADR'd it and stuff like that.
It's like that episode of Mitchell and Webb. Look, we're like, are we going to do the accents when we play Americans?
Oh, it's so great.
That's a
It's,
great show.
when Will Ferrell mocked it in was it Austin Powers? Was it Will Ferrell? He did like the German assassin or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Was he German? I don't know what he was.
I think he was.
The
No,
guy
he
with the
was,
little
he was from
fez.
the Middle
He had
East.
fez.
He was a fez. Yeah, he was from the Middle East.
Oh, who might think it was German? I don't know.
I'm
What's that?
I'm caught on something down here. Could someone please just call someone, please?
Yeah, he's like, doesn't he like fall down a ravine? Then in like the next movie, he like gets like fall on fire or something like that.
Other way around. But yeah.
Is that what it is? I don't know. So there's this little girl. No, I'm just. So they're in Germany and they make a pact where they're gonna ruin kids' lives because who gives a shit about kids? Kids are the Antichrist and they deserve to be muted and.
And all these people are 45 years old and they're like, well, if we have kids one day, like, what are you talking about, woman?
No,
Well, they just
Raymond, you're
looked
wrong.
older
They're
back
actually
in the
their-
day.
Yeah, they're in their 20s, Raymond.
They
They're
had
not
tough
45.
lives. They were 18.
Yeah, they're actually 12. They're
And
12-year-old,
that shit's true though,
45-year-olds.
man. Like I look because like when I was going through my mom's stuff, like we found like yearbooks from when because my mom's 80. So 81. I don't know. She's old. But we found yearbooks from when she was in high school. They all looked like they were like 30. Like I'm looking through like these pictures of these people of like that were I assume between the ages of like 15 to 18 at the time. They all look like they were fucking 30 years old and going to prom.
Well, yeah, you could
And-
look at like something like It's a Wonderful Life. Look at Jimmy Stewart. Dude look like he's like 50.
15.
Yeah. Actually, Barbara Baxley was in The Exorcist Part 3. Did you know that? Did you know that? Anybody know that? She's a
Who's
natural.
Barbara Baxley.
She's a woman. She
She's
was
a
in
teacher?
movies. No, she's Cora. She's Cora
Who's Cora?
from the Avatar series.
What? No, who? Ms. Wheeler.
No, yeah,
Mary Wheeler? Cora Wheeler?
Cora's the name of Miss the mother, or no,
She
the
was
wife.
also in an 80s Twilight Zone episode.
Did she play Bruce Baxter's wife?
I think she was in Button.
Button to button. Button to button.
Press a button and someone you don't know will die episode.
Oh, was that made into a movie? The one with what's
Yeah,
her
it was
face?
called The
Cameron Diaz.
Button with
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz.
That's
That's
a
actually
fucked
based
up
on a
scenario.
French movie, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a short story.
Or short? Or yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
in the short story, it ends with how well do you really know your husband?
That
Like
sounds like
someone you don't know will die, and she hits a button, and the guy says, "How well do you really know your husband?" And then grabs a button and leaves.
see that's the problem with the box too. It's like it does like this really cool setup premise, and then it just kind of throws it out the window by the end of the episode. Like
Yeah.
none of it makes sense.
Yeah, then in button, it's we're gonna give the button to someone you don't know. If people don't know, the whole thing is hit the button, you get $1 million, and someone you don't know dies. And in the episode at the end, she hits the
Dead.
button, and they say, "Gonna give the button to someone you don't know."
I mean, it could be a 12-year-old kid. It could be an 80-year-old man. You don't know.
But I don't know.
Can you imagine it was like your worst enemy? You just don't know him yet.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Some comedy show did a skit on it. The guy just keeps hitting the button. Like, if you hit this button, you get $1 million. Ding, but ding.
Triv's like, I don't want to deal with this right now.
Okay, sorry, Nick. Go ahead. I'm
Okay.
distracting.
No,
you.
no, blame Triv. Triv's like, fuck. Triv, you all right? You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're
I
getting
put
off
fun or
topic.
don't wear ties,
Okay.
Triv.
So these people decide to destroy their kids' lives.
Yes. So they decided to destroy the kids' lives by sending them to Pennsylvania.
I
That's
don't
one way of
think-
doing it.
I don't think
Germantown,
that's the
Pennsylvania.
whole plan.
I mean, I feel bad for kids having to go to like Ohio, but Pennsylvania, that's like a death sentence. I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Triv?
Yeah,
All they-
it's just
Yeah.
they kind of go all over the place. So
Yeah, all they say is you have to bring them to a secluded area. Make them grow up in a small town.
Can you imagine like it being a horror film or a horror show, and they go, "Where are you going?" To Germantown. Dun, dun, dun. It's like
In
what
case
a-
anyone watches this, it is called German Corners. Same thing.
Well,
yeah, get it
it's
right,
just,
man.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But
No,
her
but
parents
Ger-
were American.
They were, yes. I don't know. What like this
They were.
this
Yeah,
this
they
is
were
what
the
this
only
problem with this episode
Americans
is.
in the plot. And at the end, towards the end, other couple shows up and says, "Well, they are American. We couldn't make them live in Europe and be, happy. We had to force them to live in 1964 Pennsylvania."
I mean, that's my main problem with this episode. It's just like, okay, they're going to Pennsylvania. That's weird. I mean, why can't you just have it set in Germany? Then you have Mrs. Gulch from The Wizard of Oz, and you have these parents, or they've lost a kid. The kid from, of course, the grandmother episode. Who died in the pond, and I don't know. This episode is
Episode
just
That episode sucked.
Yeah, like this episode.
No,
Yeah.
this episode didn't suck. This episode was okay.
Their plan is they truly believe, they said, we all agree, right, that humans used to be telekinetic. And if we just torture
Isn't
our
it telepathic?
sorry, telepathic.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, telepathic. And if we don't talk to our kids, they will regain the telepathic ability inside of all humans. And that's their big plan. And then when they're old enough to fuck, we'll build a commune and put all the kids together and have a telepathic community.
I'm assuming there was some research behind this before they went into that, but I just, how did they get there? I wonder, what is it? Was this like a thing that people thought back then that
it kind of felt like it was like eugenics or something, like any of that shit. Like, or you get the little communes of, like, oh, well, we worship spoons or things like that, like the utopian
like a
society.
cult.
Yeah, kind of.
They kind of have like a reading of minutes where they say, okay, we all believe that A, humans used to be telepathic. B, we can be telepathic again. C, if we torture our kids, they will be telepathic. Right? Right. Now let's talk about what our plan is now that we all agree we're in this same weird cult.
I mean,
I thought that was good.
It's so weird.
It wasn't boring though. I thought that they like piecemealed out the information to us as it went along. No, it wasn't the deepest thing in the world. Sure, most of the episode is, if you look at it from the perspective of the little girl, which is not what the real episode's, part of the episode's about that, but that's not what it's really about. The episode focuses on her, but I feel like the episode's more about this family, the mother who lost something, and she sees an opportunity here to regain that and like have a place, a place to like funnel her love to. But this little girl, she doesn't realize that there's something she's missing. She thinks that this is awful, this is terrible, but what she finally learns is that actually this is better, even with this power of telepathic, telekinetic, she can read minds. Even that's not even, that's nowhere near as good as having this thing that she never knew she needed, which was the love of this mother, because we find that the parents didn't really treat her. I mean, they, like the lady said, they were never cruel to her, but they just treated her more like an experiment.
Yeah, but I don't really feel like this mother, this woman really cares about her. I mean, I don't know. I just, it's such a weird thing.
I think she was the only one that actually cared about her. Like the the sheriff, the teacher, they were all like, well, we're gonna get this weird thing that you have out of you. We're not gonna foster it. It's or go with both. It's this or that.
I think it was all coming from a good place, though. I mean, all those people, the dad or the sheriff, the male, the teacher, all of them, I feel like they were doing what they thought was right and what they thought was probably best for this child. But it was less, they weren't really listening to the child, even though she wouldn't say anything. But you know what I mean? They weren't really like, they were thinking in broad general terms of what's best for this kid. And I think they did think they were doing what was best for him. Like the teacher, she clearly had some type of
the teacher, we can talk about it in a minute. She is that's the closest thing we have to a twist in this episode is the teacher, because that woman is unhinged.
What?
see the way that
everyone else though wants to make her, they say multiple times, like everybody else. Be like us. Don't be unique. Don't be telepathic. The dad, when the sheriff first finds her, like, I don't know why she's not talking, and literally says she's not deaf, dumb, or retarded. She should be able to communicate.
Well, I do think that the mom was the only one, to go back to what she said, Nick, about you don't know if she really cared. I feel like she was the only one that actually cared more than just on a surface level of doing the right thing. I think everybody else was wanting to do the right thing, but I think the mom actually cared about the child. Now, granted, it probably started because because they lost a child and she was kind of a replacement, but I think over time she did actually start to care about this child. And even though the child wasn't saying anything, she was taking her actions as words. And from that, she was like saying, well, I don't know if this is best for her. You guys are saying she should learn this. She should do this. All these things that, we say that they should do and is best for them. But I don't know. Maybe that's not best for her. And
Mom's all, like you said, the mom, you and Nick both said the mom is doing it at the start for a selfish reason, because her daughter's drowned and she wants a replacement daughter.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like she's so distraught about, and her husband realizes it too. I mean, she's so distraught over the loss of her kid from long distance grandma that it's just like I don't know. It really is plotting. I mean, like how many times are they gonna is this girl gonna be like, don't teach me, don't teach me, no, I don't want to learn before it just becomes too much. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
She
it did
doesn't say
become
she
too
doesn't
much, and
want to learn.
she caved, and instead of all the voices out in the world being too much for her, now the voices in her head were too much for her. So,
Well, no, but not. It's not that. It's the fact that they rinse and repeat the same thing over and over and over. It's like, this is an episode that could be 23 minutes. You can get all this information through pretty easily. It's like,
yeah,
that what it
but
is, Jacob, is the episode's not the worst thing in the world I've ever seen, because like the beginning and the end are fine. It's that middle portion where it's the same repeat. I'm gonna message the parents or message the people in Germany. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. The girl, no, don't do this. Teacher snapping her fingers like she's fucking, a dictator or some shit. It's just like I don't care at that point.
I do think I
Uh,
agree. I think that it probably could have been a bit tighter as a 30-minute episode, but I will say that what it did do that I liked was I thought it did a good job at I don't know about storytelling, world building. Yeah, like on the
yeah.
surface, the story's about this girl and all that, but there's the things that we learn about these people. I really like the way that they did that. They didn't hold your hand. They didn't, and they did, like the kid thing. You learn that they lost a child, not through them saying, "We lost a child. Little Cindy drowned and did this and that." Like, we learn it just through their actions and their regular conversation of him being like, "We're gonna put her in Cindy's room," or whatever her name was, and he's like, "Oh,
Sandy.
the other room." I mean, and just the way that the mother reacts to the room and things like that, you're like, okay, they lost a kid. Now, I mean, at some point she does have like the flashback that shows them bring her dead kid's body home, and like who I guess she drowned, and we get that there. I don't even consider that hand holding so much though, because that's the little girl more or less reading her mind, and that's how she learns. Oh shit, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. I thought they did that a few times in the episode, things like that, where we learn stuff about the characters through non-hand holding storytelling, and I appreciate that more. Now, the thing with the teacher, where she's like, "You're a medium," I'm like, that caught me off guard. I was like, "What?" She's like, "I know what you
Well,
are." I was like, "Oh, okay, so they've done this. Okay, oh, maybe not. All right, you were part of a fucking cult."
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here.
It's
Well, go ahead,
so
Trev.
weird. They
I
like
love that they don't explain it.
yeah, the
She just
teacher's
says
like,
it.
I know what's going on, and we're like, oh, the teacher was a previous failed experiment by the same group or something. Like, no,
Yeah.
my parents were in a crazy cult and tried to make me speak to the dead, and that's obviously what's happening to you too. And the look
Well,
is like, what the fuck
What
are you talking
the
about,
reason
you crazy woman?
I
Like
love that
everyone
they
else
didn't
is
explain
make
it.
them one of us, one of us. And then this teacher has this crazy out of left field motivation.
And the reason I love that they didn't explain it was because we had the same reaction that this little girl's probably having, like, oh no,
but
she know what?
see,
And
that's
it
that.
just like goes, and she's like,
Well, that's fine and all,
okay.
but the problem I have with this episode, the main problem, and then we definitely have to do the opening narration before we forget, is okay. I understand she can't talk and she hears things through telepathy, but she has fucking ears, but yet she acts like she's deaf. Like it
They
doesn't
addressed
make it
that. No,
when
yeah, I agree, because
it's
I
so
was going
weird.
down a lot of roads there, because I was like, okay, if she's never spoken or been
That's
spoken
fine. Yeah,
to, she's never been spoken
mute,
to, and
but
she's never
yeah.
spoken. So she's going off of pure thought. We don't, well, we do. Most people, to a degree, like think in their own language, but there are primal thoughts that we have, and they're not words. They're feelings and things like
Right.
that.
When
So
they
I was sitting there
first
thinking, I was like, if she's
sorry.
never heard words, first of all, when we hear, and I get it, it's a TV show, so at some point you got to say, okay, we just got to roll with
But
it.
it's all
But
static. That doesn't make any
well,
sense.
no,
Like,
before all that, whenever she hears her own thoughts, they're in English, and maybe that's for our benefit. I think it would have been cooler if like it was more of like just a word, like if she was sitting there and like if they just picked like one word that would be a feeling, because I feel like she communicates inside of herself through feelings and more primal
They're treating her
thoughts.
like a dog, basically. Like
She
she's
does
like
say that she
a
doesn't
feral animal.
understand why people are talking.
Well,
In
yeah,
the very first classroom scene, the little boy's trying to read this book,
it's
and she
gibberish.
says, "Those aren't words." What is he doing? Those aren't words.
Yeah.
Thinking is words.
Because whenever she hears all that going on out there, first of all, it's like it's a cluster. So it's like, I'm not used to all this, whatever's going on, this white noise. But also, if you hear a few times in the episode when someone's talking to her, and I'm guessing that they did this so that we understand what the person's saying, but there's a few times that someone's talking to her, and it's kind of gibberish. It's like, it's like, it's not language. I mean, maybe they took it and like, sent it through some processing or something, but like there's one or two times that the teacher's talking to her and it doesn't make any fucking sense. It's only for a second because then it'll go back to the teacher making sense. I'm assuming that was honestly probably a little bit of a failed attempt at trying to say, okay, this is how she hears it, but let's go back to normal so that you understand what's going on. I think it would have been cool if whenever it was from her perspective, everything she heard was like Charlie Brown. It was like, wah, 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 or something like that. So then we'd understand that she and maybe found another way through actions or something like that. Or maybe we hear bits and pieces, but a bit more of her not understanding to kind of hammer home the idea that she is not, she can read minds because, she's reading feelings and thoughts aren't necessarily a language. But when you're speaking this language, she doesn't understand that. She's just like,
well, Trev, you had mentioned something to me about it being confusing. Is that what you were talking about? Or
no, mine was more like the way that it was shot and everything. Like it kind of came off like the mom was, the kind of comfort keeper for the kid. Then you get the teacher, the way the teacher was shot, it was kind of like from the perspective of like kind of a villain. Like the way it ended up going.
Yeah.
No, the teacher. It seemed like she was more the villain. Like she was like
I
even
like that.
Yeah, and even the like when they have all of there was a movie where like the main person wanted everyone to think thoughts at this. Oh, it was so stupid. My nieces watched this show, Fairly Odd Parents, and the guy could hear thoughts, and then they have every single one of them thinking their thoughts at Timmy Turner, and he's like freaking out because all of these thoughts are coming into his head, and that's kind of what was going on here. Yeah.
Well, I like that because I agree. They in the first part they kind of made it like the mom was not the villain, but the villain to the little girl. Like she was at odds with the mom, and like with the letters and the burning of the letters and all that, and trying to keep her there. And she wanted to go back, or she wanted her people to be contacted. So I kind of thought like the mom was going to be the villain to the little girl. In that way,
the little girl does think the mom's a villain in the beginning. She's like, "I'm going to be saved. My people are coming." And then the mom burns on the communication to her people.
I didn't feel like there was ever a reconciliation of that, or we obviously I get the idea that they came around to each other, or she came around to the mom, but that never really happened. We never saw that development in the episode. I guess we kind of did somewhat through actions, and there are time jumps. Maybe it happened then, but I would have liked to have seen maybe just a few minutes as to where maybe the little girl notices, okay, maybe you're not so bad. I'll keep you around while I'm here.
But been 3 months by then, and there is a point before she goes to the school. At least a week goes by till the teacher shows up, and she spent all that time with the mom. So the mom has formed a connection with her.
Well, no, I agree.
The mom's
we just didn't really see it.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
But we did see her at least having a reason to think ill of the mother, like through the burning of the letters and stuff like that. So, I'm sitting there in the mindset of, okay, the mom's the bad guy to her, and then she's not. And I mean, I get it. Like a few minutes later, I'm like, all right, they figured it out. But I'm like, I understand why they showed the mom doing that, but I mean, they went out of their way to make sure that the little girl knew that the mom did that to kind of give her motivation to dislike the mother, but we never got that scene to give us the motivation for her to understand and not dislike the mother anymore, like to kind of make up. And I understand, you don't want to have a hand holding, but if you're going to show me the reason that she has motivation to dislike her, I'd like to see the motivation for her to like her.
Yeah. Well, what we have here, guys, is a failure to communicate.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see, you get it. Stuart Rosenberg. Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I kind of
anyways,
felt. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead, Triff. Go ahead.
No. Go.
We've been
No,
talking over
I
you
was just
enough,
gonna say,
Trev. Go ahead.
Oh,
I
I
was
was
just
just
gonna
gonna
say, let's
say.
do the
Opening narration, maybe.
Oh,
yeah, but go ahead,
yeah.
Triff. If you have something to say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I felt like this episode was like there's, and we can talk about it more later, but it felt like there were multiple like messages kind of trying to come across, and I don't know that any of them properly succeeded. Like,
The last
it's
one
kind of
did. I think the last one did, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
The overarching message about love and
But is it
being
love or is it conformity or is it because like you could see the guys at the open? I mean, if you wanted to, I guess I don't understand where Matheson was taking this episode. Like, it felt like there were supposed to be deeper implications of like like someone being taken from like I don't know, like old world communism or old world thoughts to something more American, like like not conforming to a new country, but like what is the term? With the Borg, they would assimilate,
Well,
to
yeah.
Yeah, that's
stuff.
kind of what she was doing
I
a
don't.
little bit. The teacher, at least, because she
But
says
in
that
it,
specifically in the episode where she's like, "You have to be just like everyone else." I'm like, but that's the problem. Like, that's the clearly the issue is like she isn't like everyone else, and she shouldn't be like everyone else. And this teacher is clearly wrong for what
Well,
she's
there's two
doing.
sides of
Well,
that,
then
though,
we find
too.
out the reason why the teacher's doing that because the teacher thinks she's been brainwashed into being a medium to speak to the dead.
so yeah,
while
everybody has their best interest at heart, I think.
The teacher does have her best interest at heart, but her teacher is also freaking insane.
And a bit of a
Gotcha.
bitch. Like
Well,
the fact
and
that
yeah,
there is that thing where like it's a tough love kind of a deal. Like you will learn, and this is how we're gonna do it. But for the kid, it was more like dropping them in the deep end and not throwing them any kind, and not ever the kid being ever able to swim. Like it was almost more embarrassment thing. Like, okay, everybody, think Elise, think Elise, and that's
well, that was a parallel to her life before. And see, that was the difference between her and the mom. Like her life before was like that probably too. They were like, "You're gonna do it this way. You're an experiment. Her life was very cold before with her parents, where they're like, do it this way, learn. You're gonna no talking. We're doing this." It was very cold like that, and like at the school, that's how it was too. It's like very like, no, you have to do this. You have to do it this way. This is how we do it, and everything was very cold at the school as well. But the mother was the warm. She was the one who cared and was like, even when she dropped her off at the school, she was like, I don't know about this. And the teacher was even like, you got to go or this doesn't work. She's like, okay. She was being very motherly. And that's what we found out in the end is like, even the people that are involved in the experiment, they even say, yes, she was the best. She was the best of this telepathic society. She was a breakthrough, all this, but what she's got right here with this lady, I mean, that's going to be better than anything that we can ever give her. And that's more valuable than her being, Jean Grey. So, I mean, I think that was the point. I agree that there were probably a lot of points in there and a lot of places he was going with it and throughout the story, and they're not all conveyed the best. But I think the ultimate point was the love, love of your family, having the love of someone is trumps everything else. And without that, you can't really truly excel at anything else. And no matter how good you get at this thing right here, you're not really living until you have that
right.
love and care of someone.
And not that didn't come across. It just, I don't know, like it felt like there were so many. It didn't really feel like, what is this doing in the Twilight Zone? I guess is where I came down to.
I'll give you that. It didn't seem like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, like the twist, if you take the twist as the midpoint kind of thing, the midpoint climax of, oh my God, or, the midpoint cliffhanger of, oh my God, she knows my secret. That whole bit, there really wasn't anything that went from there. I mean, it was dramatic, but I don't know.
Well, I was thinking that while I was watching it. I was watching it while I was cooking dinner, and I was thinking, this seems more like, I feel like I'm watching a movie, like just a movie from not like the best movie ever made from that time period, but just kind of like a fine one-time watch movie from that period, not a Twilight Zone episode. Twilight Zone episodes usually have a structure to them, and there's usually some kind of like dun 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 thing in the end. None of that. It didn't feel very Twilight Zone-y. I mean, honestly, besides the telepathic thing, which I mean, that's debatable whether you believe that or not. There's not anything that's like out there, like totally unbelievable about it. I mean, the telepathic thing is a little, yeah, that's depending on what you believe, unbelievable, but it's not too far out there. Everything else is kind of grounded.
Actually, speaking of, just real quick, Richard Matheson did write the Button episode, or the story. So that's connection with Barbara Baxley or whatever.
So part of the reason why I wanted to watch this episode, why I chose this as my episode to be on when Nick asked me, hey, what do you want to do? Is one, the only other season 4 episode I remember is like episode 17, and I didn't want to wait 6 months to be on the show. But also
Only
because I remembered the setup. It's all I really remembered about this episode is there's this community of people that raise their kids without talking, and then the parents die, and now this girl who's like 8 years old has never heard spoken word and has to assimilate, as we said, into this real society, and none of these people know that that was the plan. All the evidence has been destroyed, and it's a great setup for an idea. And then I'm like, I remember that being a cool idea, but I didn't remember anything else, and whether anything else actually happened in this episode.
I know they said what it was, but I missed it. How did they? Because the big mystery in the beginning was, how did she get out of the house? Like totally.
Yeah, I wrote that. I put that in my notes with like 12 question marks.
They mentioned it in the end.
Twice they say, how did she get out? How did she get out? And did we ever figure out?
Because they did. I remember them saying something like, well, that's how they, obviously she got out of the house. I'm like, but how, did they say specifically how she got out or what happened?
They were talking about the way that her parents loved her, and even though they weren't good at showing it, they had the love to use their because she was telepathic, they could lead her out of the house when they couldn't get out themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I never caught that part. I just watched it again right before we started talking, and I didn't catch it the second time either, Jacob. I wrote it again in my notes a second time.
Well, I knew it came up.
Out of the house, because they say twice, 2 different characters say, how is she not hurt at all? How did she get out of the house so easily unscathed when this thing is burning for days?
Well, I knew they mentioned it in the end, but I was like, yeah, they mentioned it, but how? So yeah, they guided her out telepathically from, like, they were trapped in there. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. Let's do this real quick. I have a thought. Let's have you do the opening narration, since we're like 45 minutes is the episode already. And
we'll talk about the end.
Yeah. Go ahead and do the opening narration real quick.
Haven't read this. Where is it?
It's quite the word salad.
What you're witnessing is the curtain raiser to a most extraordinary play. To wit, the signing of a pact, a commencement of a project. The play itself will be performed almost entirely off stage. The final scenes are to be enacted a decade hence, and with a different cast. The main character of these final scenes is Ilsa, the daughter of Professor and Miss Nilsson, age 2. At the moment, she lies sleeping in her crib, unaware of the singular drama in which she is to be involved. 10 years from this moment, Ilsa Nilsson is to know the desolating terror of living simultaneously in a world and in the Twilight Zone. Almost made it without tripping up.
It's quite the wordplay.
What, you don't say desolating every day, Jacob?
I just, it's in the back of my vernacular.
Well, the real funny
the back
thing
of your
about
binocular?
Yeah.
He's a peeping Tom in the Twilight Zone.
Oh no.
So he's basically given us 10 years worth of dialogue, or what happens for 10 years in that single paragraph, which I find is interesting because he never does that. I don't know what you guys think about that.
It's unusual for him. Like, you could almost do, and not that they ever would do 2-parters, but you could almost do like what led the people at the beginning to that place where they felt like they had to, talk telepathically, and even some bits with the kid. Not that you'd do that because it's an anthology, but
I think it contradicts what I said earlier about, like, I really want to know how they got to this point to where they think that everybody used to be telepathic. But on the flip side of that, considering where the episode goes and what it's trying to say about, what's most important to people, I don't think it really matters. I think that's
Probably.
why they just kind of started it with saying, okay, we used to all be telepathic, right? Okay, we all agree. And we're like, what? But it doesn't matter. I mean, if we knew that, would it add anything? If we knew how they got to that conclusion, would it add anything to this episode except for more time?
True.
We
And not
need
that
You're
more
right,
time.
but yeah.
I mean, we are interested. I am curious to know, how did you get to that point to where
Were they
you believe
at
people were
like
all
a
telepathic?
community meeting for rich European people and they're like, I read this book about telepathy. Me too. And then they just, maybe that's true. And how do you go from, I heard this idea about how humans used to be telepathic to, let's seclude our kids in small towns around the world, teach them to be telepathic, form a commune, and have them mate with each other to have a telepathic society in the future. Where's the step from?
I
I read this book to let's have a telepathic commune.
I was gonna say I almost felt like they've done this before in the Twilight Zone already, but have this episode be like guy walks into town or woman walks into town with a bunch of mutes, and it ends up being like that played out. I think that would have been much more interesting than girl is kind of adopted by people who are trying to get him back to the parents, and the mother falls in love with the young girl and go to class. I don't know. Triv, help me out here.
I got nothing, man. This episode kind of left me
I left you mute.
a little bit, yeah. It left me with questions, and I mean, I just with episodes like this, there tends to be something deeper to them. And I know, like Jake said, it kind of comes back to the idea of love and that whole thing, but I don't know that we get that across the board with this. Like, I don't think I hated this as much as you did, but I'm left frustrated with it for what it maybe should have been.
I'm being a little
didn't set that
pedantic when
up.
I say, yeah, I'm being a little pedantic when I say I hate this episode. I'm with you, Triv. I'm frustrated because Richard Matheson's known for writing human emotion like really well. He does a really nice job, writing that human psychology, psychosis, and stuff like that. But when we get this episode, it feels like almost like a nothing burger. Like there's stuff there that is interesting, but in the end, it's like, what do we honestly learn? This kid was mute and she found a home, and I mean that's it. Like the Twilight Zone is always deeper than that. This feels like, as Triv said, that there's a deeper meaning behind this episode that's not presented, and I
I
don't
don't think
know.
they did a good job of setting all that up.
Well,
I mean, they throughout the
But I
episode,
don't
they
think they
didn't
played it out
really.
very well either.
Plus, I mean,
Like
they
the
didn't
setup,
put out there that, hey, what's most. I mean, yes, the whole thing was about what everybody thinks is most important for her, and then what actually is most important for her is this.
well,
But
it's
it
like the
never
opening
really put
narration.
that out there and said, hey, it was never said, hey, what's best for her is to do this or her mother's love. It wasn't
Well,
until
no,
literally the last minute of the episode they're like, oh, that's what's best for her. It's like, okay, well, that was never even.
but I get that. But the problem is the opening narration. He feels like he has to compensate for all this like material that he couldn't put in the episode, and it shows that maybe this episode should have been a movie. It should have been a full length movie, but it's like when you have to like add all this like texture into the opening narration. I've never felt like that's what the opening narration is a setup for. Here's a guy, here's what he does. Not there's a 10-year span of like that's completely off stage. This is part of a play. It's like that doesn't work in the context of what they're trying to do. It's really weird.
I mean,
So-
I'll agree. Like I said earlier, I don't feel like this is not a very Twilight Zone episode.
So
But
talking about the love, or
story,
sorry, I was just going to say, talking about the love thing. Have any of you ran into a thing, Pato and Cabenjo?
Can't say I have.
Okay, so it's documentary from 1978. And there's these two twin girls, Virginia, it's a true story, Virginia and Grace Kennedy. And when they were born, twin sisters, they had seizures. And the doctor told the dad this could be a sign of Down syndrome or something serious. But the dad didn't understand what the doctor was saying and thought, oh, they have Down syndrome. Fuck them, and sent them to live with grandma, who only spoke German and never took care of the kids, never talked to the kids. So these kids literally went the first 8 years of their life without anybody talking to them. They'd overhear grandma talking on the phone in German sometimes, but that was about it. And they formed their own language.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there's a documentary, it happened in California, and there were a bunch of newspaper articles in California about it. There's a documentary called Pato and Cabenjo, because that's the names they made up for each other, because no one ever told them what their real names were. And it's like an hour and a half documentary, and they just talk about these girls. And I'm 90% sure it's real. I mean, either that or they just like ADR'd over these poor little kids talking. But yeah, it's supposedly a true story. And for our friend Dan, there's a UK version. In Wales, there's the Silent Twins. They were born in 1963, and in 1974, they stopped talking to anybody but each other. They had an African accent and lived in Wales. And picture this, people in Wales complaining that they couldn't understand other people talk. They were the only two Black people in their community, and they just stopped talking to anyone but each other. So when they became adults, coincidentally, the UK's law that let you imprison mentally handicapped people against their will was inducted the same year. So they threw them in a home for the insane for 11 years till one of them died.
Oh man.
And they had secretly formed a pact that when one of us dies, the other one will start talking to people and have a normal life.
Wow.
The fuck?
It's the Silent Twins, a movie, 2022. 2022, a movie came out about them. It's a fictional movie about them. I think it's called the Silent Twins.
And those people's names were Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget their name, but the girls who came up with their own language were Grace and Virginia Kennedy, and they came up with Pato and Cabenjo as their fake names because no one had ever talked to them in English before, so they didn't know how to talk and just made up their own language.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
crazy.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about when I remember this episode. I had heard like a podcast where they talk about weird stories, and I remembered Pato and Cabenjo and the Silent Twins. So I did a little bit of research in the last couple of weeks to see how much info I could come up with on them.
That's really cool. Thank you. You've
done more research. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's amazing. Like everybody kind of, and I'm sure like they kind of like with the girl in the episode, they forced her to be like to communicate in a way, overcome like these barriers that you wouldn't that oh well, telepathy or telepathy is a a concept, and they push her so hard or leave her with nothing, so she goes that direction.
In her mind, it's better. Like she sees that little boy stumble over his words, and she's like, "Why don't they teach him how Dad taught me?" And she remembers in a flashback her seeing a ship sailing across the sea, and like that's what words are. You picture a sailing ship in your brain. That's so much easier than saying the sails ripple and the water moves and going through its trouble. You just think it, and that's easier for her.
I mean, as you just said, yeah, words are literally images in your brain. Like when you're saying it, you're imagining that specific word or that specific thing. So yeah, it's the episode also is dealing with the fact of like, society trying to form you into this bubble or this box. And unfortunately, I think it's actually a little disturbing at the end. Like the girl's now part of one of us, like part of the Google Gobble gang, the freaks and stuff.
I wrote one of us in my notes too.
Yeah. Which I love. I love that whole idea of like the actual freak is not the people that are in the circus. It's actually the woman. And that's the same thing here. It's like the little young girl is not the freak. It's the people around her, the freaks, because they want her to conform to the society that maybe she doesn't want to be a part of. Maybe she likes being different. Not everybody wants.
Does she like it, or is that all she knows?
Well, that's the point. Like, yeah, that's a good point.
Because they also make the point that we don't know the whole episode until the older couple couple from overseas says is that like, yeah, her home life was just kind of sterile. There
The
was
wife
no
in that couple was also in the 80s Twilight Zone episode.
Were
All
they?
right.
Wow.
Yeah, both the women were in 80s Twilight Zone episodes. Mrs. Wheeler and Frau whatever were both in 80s Twilight Zone episodes.
Frau from Austin Powers.
No.
Frau,
Sorry,
was it Frau
Jacob. Go
Brow?
ahead.
No, I was saying that I mean, we find out that her home life was kind of sterile and not very loving or emotional in any kind of way. So, like, yeah, she conformed, I guess, or there. Yeah, I don't. That's something I like about this episode too. Is I knew that when I was watching, or after I was done watching it, I was like, this episode has issues. I don't think it's terrible by any means. I don't think it's top 10. I don't even think it's top 20. I don't think it's great, but I did think it was really interesting. And the amount of talking we've done about it kind of illustrates that, because there's a lot of things to talk about in this episode as far as like just why is this, why is that, what's really going on here. And I feel like that is kind of the signs, at least, of a decent episode, because it gets your brain to turning and thinking, but not because we're like, I totally don't understand what's happening here, or this was terrible. It's more of like, what about this? What about that?
Well, to be fair, Jacob, how long did we talk about the fever? How long did we talk about Trouble Templeton? We talked about quite a while with
Talked
them.
about how bad those were because the dude fell out a fucking 2-foot window, and there was a slot machine coming after him going, that's what we talked about there. Not, what are the inner workings of this killer slot machine?
I do want to point out, someone named Movie Emporium tweeted me, "Man, you picked the most boring ass episode."
I don't know. That guy's an asshole. I hear some bad things about that asshole. It was a boring episode. I honestly was bored. Like I literally felt like it was not an episode that entertained me at all. It had so many issues with just the structure of just like rinse and repeat, and like sometimes it just needs to be 40 minutes. It doesn't need to be 52 minutes.
What do you mean by rinse and repeat? I mean, I didn't feel like it was rinsing.
The girl, and they're like, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this. Okay, I get it. 3 times later, it's like I don't need this anymore.
But of course, that's like the crux of the whole episode, of her slowly being changed over, or everybody wanting her to change, but her fighting against it. So obviously she's going to do that. I mean, there was other stuff going on in the episode too. Like not just with the little girl. You had the stuff with the mother. Then you had the revelation of how they were going to send her to school, and like the letters.
But they spent 25 minutes talking about when are we going to send her to school. It takes like a half hour before they send her to school. It's like you could literally do that in 5 minutes and be
But
done
you
with
had
it.
the whole thing with the letters in there.
The mom didn't want her to be forced into anything, and the dad did. The dad says, "I'm not saying tomorrow or even the day after that, but I'm kind of saying
3 days
the day
from now."
after that."
Exactly.
Next
he's
Monday.
Like, it's been
your
a
clothes
week.
still smell
Come
of smoke,
on.
And I think that
week in,
illustrates.
he's like, "It's been a week, honey. We got to do something."
I think that does illustrate the connection that all these other people don't have with this little girl, like the teacher, the dad, all the other people. Once again, I think that they had her best interest at heart, but not her best interest. They had this other detached human being, this little person, this little girl, this child. They have a child's best interest at heart. But
Their ideal what a child should be.
Yeah. But I mean, that specific child, only one person had that very specific child's best interest at heart. And that was the mother. She's the one who is actually forming a connection with this child and saying, well, okay, maybe this isn't right for just her. Maybe it's right for everybody else, but not for her. Or, and I thought that was interesting. Once again, I don't think it was amazing. I wasn't bored. I was entertained as I was cooking pork and green beans.
Here's a question. So normally, and I guess looking at other Twilight Zone episodes, like you get Dutch angles and kind of the weird lighting and such. Normally with those, you get episodes that are kind of not sinister, but like really off kilter. To me, there seemed like there was a lot of those kind of kitty wampus shots.
I wrote down the scene when she walks into the classroom, just like that hallway of staring faces of the other students leaning over their desk with sideways heads. I'm like, that is a weird shot to put in this episode.
Right.
Okay.
To this episode. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe. I'll wait.
I,
Yeah, you're good.
I was just gonna say that it seemed like there was a lot of like those kind of shots for something that wasn't very, I guess, sci-fi oriented.
Like the stuff from the little girl's perspective. I think most of those shots were illustrating her perspective
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's
and
fair.
how she was uncomfortable in this world. That is something I don't think that they like showed it a lot, like her like with all the voices and they were jumbling up and walking in the classroom and seeing everybody kind of, but I don't think that they really focused enough on how odd all of this was to her. I mean, it's like honestly it would be like being dropped off in the most foreign of foreign land. Like if a American who's only ever spoken English and knows no other languages was dropped off in the middle of Japan and like just dropped off there as a child and couldn't
That
even
was a
communicate.
reality television show called Lost.
It's kind of hard to say that.
No one
because
ever
English-
saw that show. There was a TV show called Lost before Lost. It was a reality show where they drop 6 people, split them into 3 teams in Mongolia
Oh wow.
with no money, no nothing. And they tell them first one in the Statue of Liberty wins $1 million.
it's hard for us to imagine that though, because English, even in countries that English isn't the main language, is
Yeah.
so widespread. I mean, you
Oh,
have
yeah.
people like in Japan who understand and can just make it through an English a basic English conversation, but like this kid's going somewhere and it's just like everything she hears is like wah 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 wah. I mean, think of what she's thinking. She's just like, I don't know. But then you're like, she can read minds. I don't know. Can she read minds? Because one minute I'm like, she can't read minds. She can only maybe take in what is being sent over to her. But then at one point she reads the mom's mind. So like, I guess
she
she
does
can
read
just
the mom's mind
invade
about the
anybody's
dead
mind.
kids. So I don't think the mom was just walking around thinking about the day her kid died. So I guess she can
I
just
think
like
she was in that
delve
moment
in.
because the little girl was like wigging out and she kind of went over there and she's all stressed. She's like,
Maybe.
and like sitting there looking off in her kid's room. So I guess maybe it's only what people are thinking right then. She can't like dig around in your memories or something. I don't know, but
And every time she's
mean,
lots of
trying to do it, we do get kind of a Charlie Brown effect with some warble wobble sounds of
yeah, I wish they
her
had done that
trying to
more.
because I guess she's so used to her dad teaching her a certain way. So it kind of like accents to her, maybe like someone with a strong accent still speaking English. Your brain has to process, okay, I know what that word means. Let me bring it into my own language. Okay, now I can answer. And you just kind of got to take that half-second processing time.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think that this episode didn't do great. I think they had a lot of cool, like good ideas, like the whole thing where it like we hear what she hears, but we just don't hear it long enough. So it doesn't really sink in. I wish they had done that more. Like from her perspective, a lot more. Like
I
she might be
wish they had done
talking.
that less. We don't need more of that. That's the problem. Like it feels like it's going one step too far when it comes to like, okay, we get it. She doesn't want to go to school. She says that like 5 times in the episodes. Like, we get it. You don't want to go to school. It's fine.
Not that. I'm talking about like how the little girl doesn't understand what we're saying. And like when people are talking, I think it would have been neat if we had seen at least, and not like a ton more, just a little bit more so we understood, okay, like fully understood, okay, she doesn't understand these words that are being said to her. She's not just being hard. It's not just that, oh, I've never spoken and I don't know how to speak. It's that, but it's also, I don't know what the hell you're saying to me. But maybe like have like a shot or something where she's just hearing all this jumbled blah 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 stuff that doesn't make any sense to her.
Maybe
And
if
that's
there
what
was a
she's hearing.
progression
But
that
then,
she starts off
yeah,
mumbly, and by the end, when they're doing the owners hold a toy to decide who's gonna own the dog scene.
yeah.
I think
They
it would have been.
communicate with her telepathically.
See, I think it would have been. I think it would have been interesting.
English, and she finally understands English.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it would have been interesting if they had maybe done it that way for the whole entire episode. Like that would have been very Twilight Zone-y. It's like, why is this young girl? Why are we hearing this the way it is? And as it slowly we realize that it's like her thoughts and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't know though. I guess the whole idea of like not be able to hear or be able to hear. It's so weird being able to hear,
No,
but
that's what I was saying earlier. I think that would have been neat. That would have been experimental,
I
but I think
think
that would have been
over
really
an
neat.
hour that
I mean,
would have been grating. I
well,
think for a 22-minute episode, that's basically what
well, but
Eye of the Beholder is, that we think that she's a monster and we figure out that she's actually in our beauty, and but you know what I mean, like if we had heard mumbling for 20 minutes would be fine, but 45, 50 minutes of that would have been
I don't think it would have been
grating.
just that. I think if like we had, maybe if we only caught that, could have kept us in the dark on some more stuff too. We could have still heard when she's not in the room or whatever, or when it's from other people's perspective. We could have heard regular English speaking, but whenever she was involved, I think it should have just been all fucking Charlie Brown, and then we're sitting there like, what are they talking about? And they could have kept us in the dark on some stuff at that point, or done some really interesting storytelling by like doing it through actions, like the whole thing with the letters and all that. Maybe we're hearing that whole conversation from her perspective, and we just pick up on the fact that they're going to write letters, and or maybe she's not understanding that, but then she picks up something telepathically, but it's a little bit more, I don't know, primal. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting ways. I do think that the episode could have been more interesting and experimental in the way that they did it.
well,
I know too. Sorry. Go ahead.
no, Trip,
Apologies.
go ahead.
I was just gonna
No,
say this whole thing kind of gave me like, Miracle Worker, where they were trying to teach Helen Keller like how to understand and speak. Not that you'd want to go that direction, but like you could have taken that and shown like that progression, like kind of like what you said, it kind of show that progression of, okay, we started here, clearly she's not understanding, but how do we get her to understand, and kind of
well,
build as you go.
That, and
that's
I
the
think that they
thing.
should have shown more of the relationship blossoming with the mother and the child. I mean, we get it, but I think that they should have focused more, because I do agree with something you more or less said a while ago, that the episode is just kind of all over the place with what it's trying to say. And it's ultimately trying to say, hey, this mother's love is better than any type of telepathic superpower. So that's what, people really need. So I think that they should have really focused on, I think that having her learn these things and kind of like working through that and showing her hardships with that more would have been good, but also showing the relationship with the mother actually developing more, besides just, hey, I know it is because it's moving forward and we see them together and she's like
Could have had her
clenching up
play
to the
with
mom.
the dead daughter's doll or something, and the mom
Well, the thing I have,
like,
the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is like it doesn't set up why she hears the way she does. It almost feels like that was the technology that they had back then, and this is how we're gonna make her sound different. But it just like, okay, so she's hearing like a statically jumbled mess. I mean, like I can understand if, like, as Jacob said, if the words were like wah 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 wah, but it's so weird. You know, the other thing that bothers me, the other thing that grinds my gears. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Third Man, the Orson Welles
No.
movie.
I
Yeah.
Anybody?
can say I have.
But there's a score. The main theme for that score is like this upbeat da 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 da. And in this episode, there's like a piano theme that plays out that is really fucking annoying. And like it makes it sound like more like upbeat, level, cats. So yeah, it makes it like more upbeat than it's just I hate scores like that where they're like there's this very dramatic episode and then you have this fucking score that's like, hey, how you doing? Have a beer. Good luck to you. Blah 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 blah. I don't know.
I put dramatic music in my notes somewhere. I think like when she first like talks about the letters or something. I put dramatic music in my notes somewhere. I don't remember why.
And I think that when there was music, it tended to be a little bit more of that dramatic nature. But I don't know, like I know I'm kind of in the same, like I think I'm between Nick and you two, just as far as like I'm not gonna say I outright hated the episode, but I definitely had issues to some extent. Like it wasn't something where I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. I don't understand the reason for the episode. And not to say that it has to have some great moral compass, but and I know it's love wins, etc., but I just it didn't, it's too all over the place to get
It
that
feels
message
like
clearly.
It feels like a Leave It to Beaver episode or something of that nature more than Twilight Zone.
I think that the idea it puts out there, that's probably honestly what I'm more leaning to and more liking. Not that I didn't. I mean, I enjoyed the episode. It was fine. I didn't think it was bad nor great. I just thought it was fine. But I think that I see a lot of potential in this idea and where they could have gone with it, what they could have done with it, and all these different things they could have done, but they didn't do that. And like focusing up, I think that they should have tightened up their focus on and picked what they wanted to focus on and focused on that, and then done some really interesting. They could have done some really experimental, like interesting things that could have made this episode really stand out, but they chose not to do that. And I think that that's. I'm not gonna say I'm frustrated by it, but I think that maybe that's kind of what pushes me forward a little bit with it. Is I'm like, hey, this it was fine, so that keeps me going, but it could have been really, really interesting. And I think that could have been is what really keeps me from saying, oh, it's awful. Well, not awful,
Well,
but bad.
Yeah, well, she was according to her letters, when they were getting the letters, she was doing the best. When the couple shows up, we learn that it's been 3 months and this is the first time they could get away. And the Wheelers have started adoption proceedings on the little girl. And so, but she was the most promising of all of them. So what does that say about her parents? Was she just special like they think? They're like, maybe she was born telepathic and we are right. And they use it as their motivation to push forward that we were right. Humans are telepathic. Or maybe they just aren't as strict with the teaching as Elsa's parents were.
I
I
think
mean,
what it is like I gather from these people and just from the fact that they pointed out that these parents weren't very loving and caring, they were very clinical, that maybe the other parents aren't like that. They view their children as, their children, but they still try and do this experiment, but maybe they don't have that same devotion as these Ilsa's parents did because they view her as just purely an experiment. An experiment we're going to take care of and we're never going to be cruel to, as the lady said, but still just an experiment. So I think what they were saying, I don't know. And see, that's another thing is that
I
something
don't
else
know
the
how.
episode's trying to say by
That's what I was
saying, hey,
asking.
you can be clinical and do these great things like telepathy, or you can be loving and have like a meaningful, caring life. So it's like
One
pick
of
a
the
thing.
rules of the group was pick an isolated area. And then the first thing they say when they show up is, why did they pick such an isolated area? Like, that was
I think
the
they mean from
second
Europe.
they kind of do. The wife does say, well, they are American. We couldn't make them
well,
move to Europe.
here,
But rule number 3 of their group is live in the middle of fucking nowhere. And then when they do it, they're blamed for it. So maybe they were, like you said, Jay, maybe they were taking this quote unquote more serious than the other people in the group.
well,
Yeah.
to get into the ending of this episode, like, I mean, what do you guys think about like this couple that her technically her legal guardians coming into America to this German place or whatever, and the actual like the couple that have been taking care of her, like, I mean, how do you guys feel about all that kind of coming to a conclusion to her finally saying, my name is Ilsa, crying, and she like loses her telepathic ability, which I don't know. I don't know what do you guys think about that?
I hope that they either get refunded for their trip or they at least get to stay a little while, try the Wiener Schnitzel and maybe, do their own reality show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, it is Pennsylvania, so it is German country. So
I mean, as long as you don't go to intersex, you're okay. No, intercourse, not intersex.
Is that New Jersey?
No, I think it's intercourse, Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's Pennsylvania.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. They say we don't have any legal right to the little girl. And we do learn that the Wheelers have started adoption proceedings and have been fostering her for 3 months. So, like I said, at the end, it's almost like who's the dog's real owner? Both of you call her. One speaks in English and one speaks telepathically, and she chooses the English speakers. And
They did come back and say that they did actually have right. That
I
To
thought they
themselves,
said
they
signed
did.
over, and but they didn't say anything about it. That the parents
Oh.
did in fact sign over, saying if anything happened to us, you guys have
Oh, do
custody
they?
of her. Yeah,
Because
they said
they
that, but they
tell
were
the
like,
Wheelers that they don't have any rights.
yeah,
to
yeah. Well, they said that because they had come to the conclusion that this was better for her well-being.
Oh, okay. I missed that other part where they say they actually did and they're lying about how they
Yeah.
had. I missed that part.
Shame on you, Raymond. You should learn all of it. You're the guest host. You gotta know everything.
Well, and I think that whole part of it was kind of to show, they saw, like Jacob talked about, they saw the way that she was able to progress with a loving couple of adoptive parents as compared to going back in and kind of recessing back into that just in your own mind kind of a deal. From that perspective, at least.
Because I think the only way that you could be just showing that she is like the best at it, unless she was born like some type of like special, but assuming all of her abilities came from the experiment, I guess the only way that you can really truly do that is if it is very clinical and there's no distraction. There's no emotional distraction or attachment to like, parents and things like that. So it's kind of like, oh, it ain't gonna work. 'Cause, like I assume with them, they make it sound like all the other kids are just kind of, they're retarded. But like it's probably because it's their parent. Hey, they said it in the episode.
They do say it in the episode. They say
No.
she's not deaf, dumb, or retarded. Kimmy trying to talk about the boat.
I don't remember
15
where I
to
was
1
going.
is what they called it in my school. 15 to
Oh,
1.
I think that they maybe this was a little bit of a realization for them, or at least the woman who was speaking, that hey, yes, we are capable of this. Maybe we were at one point. We can be telepathic, but I'm starting to think that maybe to reach the greatness that she was, that means you're leaving a piece of your humanity behind. And in order, like, what's more important, having this power and losing part of your humanity and just being kind of a shell of a human being, or being a more full-featured human being but not having this power? It's kind of like you can't have both. You got to pick one. And I think that, or they think that her having a loving, caring, emotionally strong childhood is probably more important.
And she's
Agreed.
what, 12?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thereabout.
so that was weird to me that the kid was struggling, like the one boy was struggling at 12 to read. Like that's such a first, second grade thing.
Dude, he was actually like 45 years old.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Looked young for his
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
know, Trev. In
I
my
make my
school,
mark.
we had to read out loud, and there were kids in like 7th grade having some serious fucking trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, I generally get that. It just like for this episode, the way that it was set up, it just made never mind. Maybe it just...
I agree that like even she's like, man, if that's reading, that sucks. You know how easy it is to just be telepathic and just show someone what a boat sailing looks like with your brain? It's so much easier. Why is this dumb kid stuttering?
I wish they had done. I do wish they had. Once again, this goes back to the whole the potential. I wish they had done something creative with her learning the speaking part and the understanding of all the noise. And Nick, you had mentioned earlier like the technology of the time, and all it was like this white noise coming through. I think that was twofold. I think it was supposed to illustrate like when it was doing that, it was showing like close up of her, and she was like, is like all these voices coming in at her. I think that was just supposed to illustrate that she was not used to hearing that much external stimuli. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Of course, she hears noises, but probably not like a bunch of voices. These voices are new to her already. And now there's like 20 of them coming at her at once. And it's just like a jumbled mess of noise. And it's just like, what the fuck? And then, of course, in the end, we see that reverse to now the voices in her head are doing that to her, making her feel that way. But I don't think that they did a really good job of differentiating that aspect of it, of just having all this noise come at you where you just can't even think, it's new to her, and also the fact that she just doesn't understand any of it. It just like, this is just noise. It's not words. And I wish they had like shown more of a progression of her learning what that stuff meant, of her
Especially during
learning
the scene when she literally says those aren't words, but we're
Yeah.
hearing words, so that would have been a perfect time
exactly.
to have
And
something, do something.
They could have been just like really creative. Okay, this is just an example of how to be creative when learning something, and it is a book because it hasn't been accurately put to film yet, even though there's like 42 movies based on it. The book Tarzan of the Apes, one of the best books ever written. You think you know the story, you don't. Read the book; it's amazing. But anyway, when Tarzan's learning to read, he teaches himself to read, and that's an interesting thing as well, because later in the book you find he can read English, or actually French. He can read it, but he can't understand it. So later on, people are speaking to him in this language he knows how to read, but he can't speak it. That gets interesting. That's something kind of interesting they could have done here, but whatever. When he's learning it, he's looking at these books and he's just looking down, and he's never seen words. He's never seen books. He just sees these pictures because his parents are actually coming to teach people in Africa. The mom was. So she has a bunch of learning books. He sees like these books and he describes the words as bugs, these little bugs. They're all over the words. And if you ever look at words, like just like kind of looking at it when you don't focus on it, it does almost look like they're moving around. So like he describes it as these little bugs. And over time, as the book goes on, he starts like putting two and two together and seeing, oh, wait, this word is always with this picture and these words and that. And he slowly learns how to read, and it does a really good job. I think that this episode could have done, not with reading, obviously, but with like speaking, something interesting like that, where she sees or hears or understands all this as one thing, and over time it starts to morph into actual language or hearing or some type of learning thing like that could have made it even more interesting.
You're kind of going in with the mom and the love thing, and then you've got like the teacher on the other side that just like, goes the same kind of route as, in theory, her parents, like her real parents did, of like pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and not giving thought to how like learn, like, because now there's like different kids learn different ways. This is the way that you focus on it.
That was something I didn't mention I did like about the episode, even though I'll even admit it's not the greatest episode ever. I liked how it did subvert expectations in some ways for me, is it did present at least 2 times, if not more, characters that you view as, once again, at least from this girl's perspective, as the bad guy or the villain or her threat. The mom, and then the teacher, and I mean, to an extent, even these people that come from overseas. But then they're presented that way at first, and then as the episode goes on, you find out, okay, no, they're not really. It does kind of like throw in that whole thing of our understanding and misunderstanding of things, and it's through misunderstanding that we think, or she thinks, these people are villains, for lack of a better word. She thinks the mom is, because the mom's doing everything she can to not let her go back to her people, but what it really is the mom truly does care, and she wants this child in her life, and then she actually starts to care about the child, and the child starts to care about her. The teacher, it's a little out there, but the teacher does have her best interest at heart, and she's like, oh man, you've been manipulated by a cult crazy medium thing too. I want to help you. And while she is strict and harsh, it's because she wants to help that much and that bad.
She also doesn't realize she's doing to the little girl what was done to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of, she's like, oh no, you gotta do things this way. And like, why? Because I was forced to do things one way. Oh, good point. Like,
yeah.
Like
and then the people from overseas come, and they're, talking to her, and it's freaking her out. And now we feel like, okay, the mom and the little girl, she's creating this little family. Now these people are here and they're going to take her away. So for us, we're like, okay, now they're the bad guys for us because they're going to take her away. But then it turns it around and they're like, no, this is best for her. We're going to leave her there. So I think the episode did a really good job, if nothing else, repeatedly showing us characters that we think are one thing, and then they turn out to be something else, but actually giving us a pretty good reason why all of them aren't the shitbags that it initially presents them as. So
see, I'm not sure that we get that resolution with the teacher, and not that it, in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter one way or the other. but that it still feels like every
harsh.
time and it's not necessarily in a good way, but I understand that's.
But I think she thinks it is.
Well, no, I get that, and
I don't think that she ever crosses a line that's like because like when she was sitting there and she told her that one point she's like, "You're going to say your name," and she had that ruler. Just like, "Here's what we're gonna do." I was like, "Ooh," she goes like, "Every time you don't say your name, I'm gonna slap you with this fucking ruler." Or
no,
something.
she crosses the line when she does the snapping thing. I'm like,
Well, no, I thought she was gonna hit her like and say your
the
name.
ruler.
Ow, yeah, I thought it was gonna be some shit like that. I thought she was
Say
gonna
my
fit the
name,
kid, and I was
say
like,
my
okay,
name.
now it's gonna cross the line. She never crosses that line to where she's just like evil and she's harsh, she's rough, but she kind of gives you a reason as to why she would think that was necessary.
Oh no, I
because of
100% get
her
that
situation.
I just there's not that moment of like, oh, I'm doing this because I want you to be able to overcome this. It's all just that very like, and not,
yeah,
I don't
hers
think
is the
it's
weakest.
I don't think it's Ms. Gulch levels, but it is still that just like when the kids are standing there like yelling at her in her brain, in her mind, like that would be torturous too, and that's without the
we don't know
explanation.
that. We don't know.
suppose
I
not.
mean, they
But
don't
the way
know.
that it's present, and I know that it's a kid perspective, and kid perspective is very different to what I don't know. I guess I could see that part, like that whole part with the teacher in a horror movie, I guess is where
I'm with you, and it kind of comes off as like the teacher promoting bullying.
I'm not even sure bullying, just that
it's 1963.
like change or die.
Promoted, it just happens.
True, that's very true. And I mean, that was a lot of teachers. Like I remember my parents both talking about like they had nuns as teachers, and like the amount of wrist or what ruler whacking that went down. And it's a small point. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme, but I will agree with you on everything but the teacher as far as like seeing one thing and then moving to another. We don't get enough information on the teacher one way or the other to see her, as
Sure. Oh no,
misguided. Road to hell is still paved with good intentions, I guess is where I land.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But hers wasn't as clear cut as the other ones for sure. But I guess just and maybe I'm thinking more into it is like at first I'm seeing this teacher. She even walks up and she just has that kind of. I thought she was like a care social worker when she first got there or something like that, and then say it's the teacher, and she just has this air about her. I'm like, oh, you a bitch. And she's gonna be mean.
Yeah.
But then you find out.
Sorry, she has a previous conversation with Ilsa's parents, so she's already against them. She's like,
yeah,
I went to say, hey, is your little girl coming to my class? And they're like, fuck no, stupid teacher. And so she's already like, that's why
they probably
she's
didn't say that. They probably went.
Yeah.
Her parents died in a fire like 5 hours ago. Her hair still smells of smoke.
Of elderberries.
Let's learn math.
The parents, the teacher says in initial conversation, first time we see her, that she originally went to Ilsa's parents and they were dicks to her and said, we're not putting our kid in your school. So that's why she so believes in this crazy medium plot that
why would you want to put
that was out there, man.
Why would you want to put kids in school when all you hear is wah 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 wah?
I was not expecting that medium thing. But it is so out there. I know.
Who was more shocked, Jacob, you or Ilsa, when she heard that?
I was like, what the fuck? Because like they were setting it up like she knew.
I know what. Yeah, like she was like a failed experiment from a generation before. That's like, what I thought. Medium. And then she's like, they trained you as a medium. Like wait, what now?
And then it just next scene, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we have her motivation down. Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to know where this falls with IMDb, like the IMDb kind of ratings and Paste magazine?
And Paste?
Yes,
sure. Of course. Where would we be?
So Paste had it at 85, and IMDb weirdly had it at 136.
I agree with IMDb.
Like it's one of those few times where Paste is like
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. It's another reason why I wanted to talk about this one, to kind of see where I fell, because I saw the huge discrepancy between the two. And
oh yeah,
Paste likes this one, and IMDb's the one that's like, 5. Like, what?
And the thing is, like, the IMDb score is like 6.5, so it's not like
Yeah.
in the grand scheme, it's not a terrible score. It's very average when you think about in the shows overall. But yeah,
I can agree with that.
But in episodes overall, it's terrible. Everything in Twilight Zone is like a 7.
Yeah,
Like you
at the
said,
very
it's what, like
least.
130 something out of 156?
136. Yeah, it's 20 off
136
the
out of
bottom.
156? Jeez.
Yeah.
I think I looked and Paste ranks it as the 4th best season 4 episode, and IMDb ranks it as the 4th worst.
Well, I mean,
there
it's
you
the fifth. It's the 5th best episode at this moment. So
The
Yeah.
17th, 5th greatest episode of the 4th, 5th of the 2nd season of the 3rd, whatever.
that's what she said exactly.
Probably.
Yeah, Paste is in their top 4. IMDb it's in their bottom 4.
There you go. All right. Before we could probably continue talking about this for 3 hours.
I think we're
but
gonna
I'm
have a
pretty
lot
sure-
to talk about in the ranking section of this.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and head out, or not head out. I keep thinking we're almost done, but we're
Fuck
not.
the ranking.
With that said, she's happy. She goes off to be random person number 4 on said TV show of random TV series, and
She goes on to be
becomes-
touched by an angel.
yeah, exactly.
Yep, she does get touched by an angel. She's a newspaper editor who's lost her way.
And she's a very horny woman, and
She has a
of course,
nightmare
Mr.
as a
Mom.
child because she's touched by an angel.
Oh my god. Anyways, Jacob, let's do the closing narration.
It has been noted in a book of proven wisdom that perfect love casteth out fear. While it's unlikely that this observation was meant to include that specific fear which follows the loss extrasensory perception, the principle remains, as always, beautifully intact. Case in point, that of Ilsa Nelson, former resident of the Twilight Zone.
Jacob's like, you fucking son of a bitch, Rod, and your word plays and
Well,
So
all-
we're right. It was about love.
the casteth out, the casteth, I don't know why I did not read that word as casteth. I was looking at it as castish, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Many things.
Casteth. Whatever, it's late.
It was about love.
It's all
Rob
about
told us
love.
so.
Everything's about love, unless you're
Love
that
conquers
teacher.
What
all.
is love? Baby,
like
don't hurt
The
me.
end of Brazil,
Don't hurt me.
the love
No
conquers
one.
all ending.
Yeah.
So I would ask what we think of this episode, but I think we've kind of talked about that. I think we've gone into like very intimate, intricate detail about what we thought about the episode. So let's do it. Let's talk about our last segment, which I got to bring up first.
33.
Nick puts it at the bottom.
Wait, hold on. Let me introduce it for you, sons of bitches. So, anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and do our last segment, which is the Twilight Zone ranking list, the greatest ranking list ever known by mutes. So this episode, I would put it
33.
107.
33.
Wow.
No, I would put this in the bottom, like in the 90s, though. I really didn't like this episode.
It's not that bad.
It is that bad. I put this below Long Live Walter Jameson.
I will say this is going to be a hard one to rank, though, because it is so un-Twilight Zone-like. So it's like, what do I compare it to?
A piano in the
house?
house.
It is not an episode that I will watch again, but there's plenty of those that I still like. I don't think it's a great episode. I think it is very middle of the road for me. It's like in that section of Twilight Zone that's like, yeah, it was fine. It was cool. I'm not going to watch it again. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Probably the back end of the
so right
mid-range.
below Mighty Casey, right above Dust.
But I know that there's episodes that I think are probably worse than this one, but I would watch again.
I wouldn't put this one above, like, it's not going above Escape Clause for me, so it's not going to be anywhere above 69.
That's what she said.
I know. It'd probably be.
I mean,
Quite a
that
bit.
area
think
right
this
there,
is-
I'm
I'm not even
I'm-
joking. I think this is worse than Mr. Denton on Doomsday. I mean, I like Mr. Denton on Doomsday, just kind of a.
Where is
I think
Denton
this
on
episode is
Doomsday?
completely
88.
88.
88. Thank
Yeah.
you. It doesn't. It definitely doesn't go 88 miles an hour.
No.
Which is one below a
Which one
piano.
was Mr.
in
Denton on
the
Doomsday?
The
house.
house.
That's where the cowboy got the water elixir or whatever. This is like the 3rd episode of the series. Like death, like the guy.
Oh, where he's having the
Yeah.
shootout and the snake oil.
I mean, I'll go.
I
I'll
did.
go-
No, I
I'll go
like
to the
this one more than
80s.
that one.
A
Really?
shot an arrow into there. Is that the one where they're in Reno?
Yeah, they end up in Reno.
Yeah.
in the
I
end.
shot him at a Reno.
I
just
like
to
that one more than
watch
this one.
him die.
I'm at 86, 87, that area. I liked it more than Mr. Denton on Doomsday. Piano in the House. The House?
I like see.
They're vastly
See?
different episodes.
As
but I'm
I
kinda-
obviously have had nothing to do with creating this list.
Well,
other
okay,
than
okay. I will give this.
putting
this.
4 o'clock at the bottom. I have nothing to do with creating this list, so I always gotta look at it every time and be like, "How is that better than that?"
Guys,
Same
I
thing
will give it
Jacob does
this.
every week.
I will give it this. This is better than the passerby.
Yes.
Passerby is 83.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
82, you mean?
No,
No,
83.
On my
What?
list.
82's last rights of Jeff Myrtlebank.
There's 2 lists. There's like back-to-back lists.
Oh.
Jake,
Oh, shit.
scroll
Hang on.
down further.
Yes. Here we go. Okay.
Maybe I should probably put like new lists before I send you guys a list.
Yeah, but if you
Because
put
I
new
forgot
lists,
that
then...
we don't really use this to talk, so I probably put like the old last week's list and then this week's list.
Okay. Where's Passerby again?
Passerby is 83.
83. Okay.
I mean, is
Last
this
Rites of
better?
Jeff Myrtle.
What about is this better than Dead Man's Shoes?
One more pallbearer. Which?
That's the
That's
one where
the one where the guy summons people to the shelter.
yeah,
Oh.
he
that
ends up
had
crying to
wronged him
the
in the
Tim
past,
Burton.
and he
Oh,
ends
it's
up
better
crying
than that
in
one
a
because that one
fountain.
had a fucking awful ending. Like, so bad. The end of that is so fucking stupid. You got to say that about this one. You could say it was boring. You could say it was like, why am I watching this? But it didn't have just, you
It didn't have a guy
understood.
crying to a tree.
It's fucking crying to a fucking fountain in New York. It's fucking stupid. The actual episode itself was okay-ish, but man, they just screwed the pooch. there,
This
man.
ends with the like, does she join quote unquote normal society or go back to her upbringing? So at least there's
Well,
like
is
a-
this better
Young
than like
Man's
Dead
Fancy.
Man's
What was that?
Shoes? Young Man's Fancy
just
was an
watched that.
episode for.
Yeah,
So
that's
then
where the guy and his wife go back to the house and like he kind of
he
recesses
turns
back
into a
to a little
kid. You
kid.
hated that
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Jacob.
yeah. With the
See,
crazy
you know what the
thing.
sad?
That one
You want to hear
too.
something sad? Raymond remembers everything that we don't. So he's like, "Oh yeah, that's the one you hated." I'm like, did I? Did I hate that one? I don't remember.
Jacob hated. I think Jacob hated the ending. Like, why is he turning into a little kid? That's so stupid. Or why is
The end
mom
of it
there?
was dumb. Well, no, I didn't think the end itself was dumb. How it played out, like the idea behind it was fine. I didn't like how they did it with the mother sitting there and all that. And
Yeah,
I
the
think it could
mother
have been done
stuff.
very differently. But
But the fudge looks
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, it did.
fudge.
There's
Here's
Dead
where
Man's
I would put
Shoes.
it. Honestly, in all honesty, I would put this below Midnight Sun because I like the ending of Midnight Sun. But I like this better than Dead Man's Shoes. But I can't go past like 22. 22,
Yeah,
I like the
22's
Arrival
episode
better
I
than this.
really like. That's one I said like
You know, kind of don't like.
that's
Oh, the
like a
airplane, right?
guilty. That's the one where room for one more, honey. She has that nightmare, and that room 22 is the morgue, and that dinner she's
Oh,
about to
yeah.
get on the airplane.
That was actually, I think, the first one that Dan came on.
Yeah.
where she keeps having the dream, the same
Yeah.
dream,
Yeah.
and she tries
Yeah.
to change it.
No, she keeps having a dream that woman's going gets her to go to
It's the
room
one
22.
that Final Destination was inspired
Yeah.
by,
Yeah,
where the plane
Yeah, so
explodes.
fun.
at the
yeah.
end.
She the plane. That's what I mean by the one with
Yeah,
the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though
it's,
it's at the very end.
The
although
one
it-
with the plane or the guy or the piano with the house.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
yeah, I always remember 22, like I said, first time I was on this show, because it was during all the marathons that nurse has such a unique look that they would use it as one of the montage
Yeah.
figures for all the commercials.
I
So
could
we
put it
call this
around
like
Midnight
Mute
Sun. I'm
Sex
cool with
Machine.
that. I thought Midnight Sun's ending was very contrived, but it was. I mean, I didn't hate it. I was just like,
well,
oh, yeah.
you just didn't like the shirtless guy, the guy with jacket, no shirt on.
I mean, why would I not? That absolutely that boosted it up. to
How
where it
is the arrival that high?
I don't know because they decided it was good and I didn't.
Which one was the arrival?
Oh,
The
is it
guy
with-
that goes crazy.
Do we need to tail
It's
his
the
tape?
plane, the
George C.
plane
Scott.
appears and the
Oh,
guy
yeah,
sticks his hand through the rudder thing.
I enjoyed that one. I thought it wasn't terrible.
You would, Trev. You would enjoy it.
Shut your face.
Had
The
that really good
mirror
shot
Dan
towards
was
the
on
side.
that.
Cunt nugget.
The mirror
Nugget.
Dan was on
Cunt
that too.
nugget.
That's the Castro one.
We'll go get shirts made that say "cunt nugget."
A cut nugget in the house.
And cunt nugget in the house.
You guys are
Eat a
thinking
stretcher and a cunt
mid-70s
nugget.
somewhere?
I was thinking like 79. You know, right
Would be
below
the
69
279.
in the house.
Midnight Sun did have a great ending.
I thought it was all right.
Yeah,
It
I
has a
didn't hate
unique
it, but I was
ending.
like, I saw that coming.
Yeah.
It was, I don't. It was fine.
It has like it's
I don't know.
Twilight Zoney. Unlike
Very.
this episode.
It is Twilight Zoney.
I mean, would you put this above Midnight Sun then?
I don't.
I would still probably hold Midnight Sun above this, but it would be right in there.
I'm fine with that. 79.
So
Yeah.
in the
79 in.
house.
Yeah, I'm good at Midnight with 79. I like Midnight Sun. I like 22. I like a couple of them episodes in that area. The Lonelies, a couple up from there. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I'm
great.
right
Back
around
end
there.
of the middle, like I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob has
fair.
Jacob has deemed it. So
So we
I
must-
still gotta say, man, even though this one wasn't like everybody's favorite for sure, I don't think anybody here is saying it. I mean, Nick, you keep saying it, but you even submitted and said it wasn't awful. I'm still waiting for the
I was being
god awful
pedantic.
episodes that are just like, Jesus Christ, when is this gonna
We
end?
Wait
have
till you
that-
get to
Jacob-
Jezebel.
yeah, we're 2 episodes
That
away
one
from
episode?
Trev's favorite episode.
Oh God.
But if it's just one episode out of all of them, I don't feel like that means the whole season.
You know what?
I-
I never said that season 4 was bad. That was all this guy next to me.
I never said anything. You're lying,
Bullshit.
Trish.
Raymond said that?
Lie. woman.
Raymond, can you please inform the Movie Emporium, Bikini Emporium man that he's the one that kept talking about how bad season 4 was supposed to be?
I mean, he did kind of say, "You just wait, Jacob," like a
Mhm.
couple hundred times.
Raymond, you're off the show. Get off the show.
Oh.
You shall
Until
forth
after
be known
Jezebel, when Jacob quits, and then can I be back on the show?
as- Sure.
Now I want to see Jezebel.
You have a 2-episode ban.
Isn't it a horse or something like that?
No.
We keep thinking Jezebel's a horse episode, and Trim
I
keeps
kept thinking.
telling
I kept
us
thinking it was.
every time it's not the freaking horse episode. The horse episode is season 5.
No, I kept
And
thinking.
it's
I
half
kept
an
thinking it
hour.
was. I actually thought Jezebel was that episode, the one with the woman and the witch and stuff like that, where she like keeps seeing the woman on the hill chasing after her. I thought that was this episode, but no, that's the 5th episode. Steer horses or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about this when I was on For the Grave, that me, Nick, and Jacob all thought Jezebel was the woman on a horse episode, but apparently it's not.
Nope, I can attest to that fact because I hate that episode I hate the Jezebel episode with a freaking passion. And you guys are
Well, I
probably
mean-
gonna put it at like number 45 or something like that.
We still have the bard to talk
Yeah.
about as well. So
You know, it's
Oh,
the
man.
only episode in all of Twilight Zone that does not have a closing narration.
Jezebel?
Yeah.
Rod
I just
Serling
want-
gave up on it. He's like, fuck this shit, and left.
It ends on a folk song.
The folk song is
Am I
called
gonna-
Jezebel.
It gives the folk song. Am I going to have to sing this?
Yes.
When it
Yes.
gets closing
Oh, no.
narration?
yes.
Fair was Ellie Glover, dark was Jezebel. Both they love the same man. There's more.
I
With
think
that
that makes
said-
the
They
best
loved him
episode.
We actually may have a guest on that for that episode, right, Triv? Jezebel?
What?
We'll talk about it. So that was pretty quick for a ranking list for where we didn't think it was going to end up. So yeah, with that said, new number 79, Ute. Number 1, probably going to stay that way for the rest of the series. Eye of the Beholder. Number 107, The Trouble with Templeton. Next episode.
Oh, number 88.
No,
Piano
no,
and-
The
house?
In the house.
Oh my god, you guys are terrible individuals.
That's
but the
why you
next
like
episode,
us.
yeah, sure. But the next episode is the
Really
episode,
proud I
the
could do that
penultimate
long,
episode
'cause
before.
I smoked for so many years. I just feel really good about that. And I stopped. I could have kept going.
Oh my god. So the next episode, before the penultimate episode before Triv's favorite episode, is based off the Flying Dutchman story, but it is season 4, episode 6, Death Ship, directed by Don Medford, written by Richard Matheson, starring Jack Klugman and Ross Martin.
Clug.
Klugman, the Clugs, the Clugs.
I thought it had a good
Uh,
trailer. I mean, not trailer, but like next
I think
week
it's
on.
rated like the best episode of season 4.
No, actually,
I mean,
that
Look
was
Forward was good.
actually I think it was one of the episodes we talked about already. I think, or maybe it was miniature.
Jezebel.
What was
Might be miniature,
Miniature's pretty good.
but
Actually,
those
you know
shit's
what?
high rated.
this season actually has a lot of well-known people like Pat Hingle and Robert Duvall and James Whitmore and Lee Phillips and Jack Weston and John
But
Williams.
no Charles Brosnan.
No Lee
Sure, why do you gotta
fucking
get my hopes up?
no Lee
Son of a
fucking
bitch.
Marvin. He's only in
Yeah.
season 3 and 5.
Yeah.
I think it's the last episode. Printer's Devil is the last episode Burgess Meredith was in. I think.
Yeah. That was
Yeah, I
his-
think
yeah.
so.
I mean,
Yeah,
we're like
before
a
he-
third through the season on this next one, right?
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
it's
a
only
third-
18
this next-
episodes.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
a third of the way through the season, and we've still not come across absolute shit. Actually, the season's been pretty damn good. I mean, up till this one, debatably, but today's episode. But beyond today's episode, I think it's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
And this next one looks like it's gonna be pretty cool.
I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I think
Yeah,
next
it
week's
was.
pretty good.
And then we
It's
get
crazy.
Jizbells. So
get
Just
Jezebel.
bells.
All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and head out. Raymond, you give all your insights to the world. I'm sorry, we talk about Jezebel and old man Procter and Gamble and I don't know, anal cavity searches and whatever else we talk about. You know how it is. So with that said, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure as usual.
Goodbye. Check out my channel. I'm going to, for unknown reasons, review the 90s television series Renegade starring Lorenzo Lamas.
hell yeah.
Should be out by the
Nice.
time this video comes up.
Yeah, I was
Like-
saying there wasn't. Did you already review that? I thought you already reviewed it.
I watched the rest of it today. I did Touch by an Angel a while back. I reviewed Takedown, which is a 1979 amateur wrestling movie with Lorenzo Lamas. So I'm like, I just watched Renegade. So that should be out soon.
I was gonna
Nice.
say for half of us, like half the podcast right now, you guys watch some weird stuff, Ace. No, but Triv, you watch
Yeah.
weird stuff. You
Do
have
I?
content. I'm still
Do
waiting for
I?
your other video.
You watch weird stuff.
The best part about waking up is editing these videos with Folgers in my cup and hearing you guys talk about what you guys have coming out like that before the episode airs. It never does. So what do you have
That's
coming
just
up?
me.
No,
Triv-
it's
Triv
me.
said she was-
It's me too. I actually
I'm
have
the
this.
only one I'm the only one that's ever on time, you sons of bitches.
You know what?
So good.
None of my stuff. All of my stuff is evergreen. I
kidding.
could drop it now. I could drop it a year from now. It wouldn't matter. No, so I had all right, for God's sake. Here on YouTube, you can find me at Trivial Theater. I dropped Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter about a week and a half ago. By the time this comes out, I will have the Hottie and the Naughty, which is a collab. It was a pain in the ass, so stop over and say hi, and check that out. So
And Jacob, is it
Yeah.
coming this week?
that's
No.
what she said.
I was gonna place a bet where Jacob's thing that he said might be a problem popped up, but I don't know. You said you might have it out this week, you might not. What is that
No.
you have? What channel is that? Richard Jakesy?
Retro Jake XY. Retro Jake.
I thought you said Richard Jake ex-wife for a second. Like, oh, what the hell's going on?
He loves Kyle XY, that TV
Retro
show that
Jake
nobody
is
remembers.
high.
That too.
No, Retro Jake XY is my YouTube channel that I currently am focusing on. I have video game history, mostly history videos on it. Go check it out. I have a new one coming real soon. By the time this airs, I think it will be almost ready. But I've started like actually hardcore editing on it, and I just forgot how long these things take to edit. Jesus, there's a lot of cuts.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
I gotta start mine when we're done with this. I gotta start pulling clips.
yeah, I'm actually, when we get off of here, I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm editing every day. My family has been sick for the past few days, except for me, which has left me to take care of everyone. And
Have you started to become like Gollum down in the basement? It's like, yeah, my precious. He's like,
that is
he's
taking
just
up a
trying
lot
not
of
to
my
get sick.
time this week. But yeah, I've been late at night and early in the morning editing away. As I've been editing, I am excited about this one because I've been it's been coming together here at the end, and especially the opening. I think is a neat idea. I'm looking forward to shooting that. I think it'll be funny. But yeah, if I had to honestly guess, I'd say probably from this recording here, probably 2 weeks.
So next episode, you'll tell us that it'll be out by the time the next.
I'm hoping that by the time next episode rolls around, I'll have a trailer or a tease for it that I could put out for people. Once that tease goes out, it's probably a week away.
You've been teasing us to start with for,
a video tease, like an actual tease, something. I
Trev, he likes to tease our cockles.
I know.
I love teasing the cockles.
Yeah. I don't have the energy to do teasers for my videos because nobody watches.
Well,
them.
let's not. It's just the opening to the video.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
The vision I have in my head of the opening is really cool. Once I shoot it and I put it all together and do all the magic I'm going to have to do to it, we'll see how it looks. If I like the way it looks, I'm going to put that out as a teaser. If I don't, I'll keep it to myself.
There you go.
I'm like, this looks like shit.
If Jacob likes it, he'll let you know. If he doesn't, go fuck yourself.
As of right now, the opening seems really cool in my head.
Just don't tinker with it too much.
Are there lasers, Jacob? If there's not lasers, I don't
actually
exactly
sort of is.
Okay, I'll watch it. As long as there's lasers, I'm on board.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. But
all right. So with that said, be patient. They'll come eventually. In your ear holes, come. Eventually in your ear holes.
All
So
over the ear holes.
Exactly.
Wow.
But
I don't know if I want. I don't know if I. Anyway, moving on.
Have to.
Yeah. Anyways. So with that said, I'm at Movie Emporium right now. I'm literally focusing on Masters of the Air, trying to finish that up. 4 more weeks of that, and then of course this podcast. And I'm sure I'll figure out how to do something. Me and Jacob may do Doom Part 2, the sequel review that we will talk about. Hopefully, if I ever get a chance to see it, that type of thing. So, but honestly, without further ado, that'll do it. That'll be our take on Mute for this week. And thanks again to Raymond. But for myself, Raymond, Jacob, Triv, and whoever else is on this podcast right now, there's so many people
in the house.
We'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfucker.
Bye.
Let's hope I didn't say this to the cloud again.
Yeah, I checked the comments on the last episode I was on, and someone's like, it was a good episode when you were talking about the episode, but you guys rambled too much. And Nick just comments, you should see it before I edit.
Yeah.